Well, hey everybody, it is Dr. Glenn Livingston, and I'm here with my lovely wife and her cartoon icon, Dr. Sharon Livingston. How are you, sweetheart?
So does that mean that I'm someone and the cartoon is Dr. Sharon Livingston, and then who am I?
Well, you are somebody, you definitely are someone. You are someone who has interviewed 60,000 consumers.
That's true.
And you have done consulting for Lipton and Novartis and J. Jill and AT&T and American Express and Citibank and
Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca and lots of people. Hallmark.
Probably 50 of the Fortune 500 without exaggeration. And the reason that's important to all of you today is that it's very difficult to sell on the internet without proof. As a matter of fact, I always say the number one reason that reasonable people don't respond to your reasonable offers is not that you have the wrong headline or the wrong benefits or the wrong offer, but that you just don't have a way to prove it. And testimonials are one of the best ways to prove it, but the standard advice for getting testimonials in direct response, I think, is very inadequate. And given that Sharon has interviewed so many consumers about their emotional response to advertising, their purchase intent, I don't know that there's anybody that has a better ear for what sells and how to interview people to get those testimonials than Sharon. So I asked her if she could talk about a strategic plan for developing testimonials for your website. And these are things you could use on the website or in follow-ups or even to help you improve your copy. And I won't hide the fact that she also has a done-for-you service, which we'll talk about at the end. But like everything else that we do, we think that it works out in a totally win-win way if we pour our hearts out and teach you everything that we know about generating testimonials. And then there are some people who prefer that we do it, and there are some people that prefer to do it themselves. And it's just everybody grows from the experience. So, sweetheart, are you ready to go and rock and roll with that presentation?
So we've been talking about this together for a long time. You know, you talk about your golden glove and how important it is. The first finger is to figure out what the desperate need is of your targets, and then to see what it is that your particular differentiating product or service does that really speaks to what people really need. And then you need the social proof. And you know, you've been talking about that, and those are the first three fingers of the glove that are so important.
So, sweetheart, yes, just in case people are watching this webinar who haven't heard of that, can I just help you what that is for a second?
Yeah, and I wanted to tell you that as I was as I'm talking to people about it, as if they can see what I'm doing, I am showing the fingers on my hand. And go ahead.
So the Golden Glove is a way to boil down everything that we've learned about advertising, everything that makes people buy in 5 simple principles you can remember like the back of your hand. And the first 3 fingers of the Golden Glove all start with a P. They're called problem, promise, and proof. And in a nutshell, what it says is you need to address a very specific audience about a very specific problem. That's the first P. And the second P says you need to make a unique promise that shows them that you can solve their particular problem better than anybody else in the world. And then the third finger is called proof. And it's the middle finger of the hand for a good reason, because if you identify...
Oh, you did this to tell that joke. Go ahead.
It's not a joke. If you identify the right problem and you make the right promise, then people are salivating, but the more that they want it, the less that they trust you. The more that they think it's for them, the more you have to prove it to them. And so they kind of hold up this middle finger and say, you know, F you, prove it to me. And that's why proof is so important, and social proof is a particularly powerful form of proof. So now I will try to shut up and let you take over. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Well, and it's really, really important, because as much as I'd heard you say that, I didn't totally get it until very, very recently. I was at a Rotary Club meeting, and this man came in who was talking about hydroxyl purifiers, air purifiers, and we've been trying to figure out what the best air purifier for the house would be. And it was something very, very important, because this year the allergens in New Hampshire are horrible. They're just horrendous. And for the first time in my life, I've got allergies. And it's because, you know, the allergens are, because we had such a mild winter, it created very, very high allergic kinds of substances in the air. And so you would think, I mean, it just makes logical sense. You say what you're really looking for. Somebody says, oh, that's what it is? Well, look what I've got here for you. And that's what this guy was saying. He had the ideal thing. It killed this, and it killed that, and it killed this, and it killed everything that, you know, you could possibly imagine, and left the air pure and fresh. And my skepticism went sky high. And I went, oh, that's what Glenn's talking about. I really got it. I really, really got it. Because otherwise, you would think, oh, this is your problem. Here's the solution. Cool. You know, it's like a puzzle. You got the pieces. They fit. But no, they didn't, because I didn't believe it.
Well, and especially online, where people are trying to get electrons to fly around the internet and deposit money in your bank account without interacting with a person, it engenders an even greater level of skepticism. And there really are a lot of scammers online. So unfortunately, you're guilty until proven innocent, and social proof is one of the ways that you prove yourself innocent.
And it's a very powerful way, because we're very community kinds of psychology. That's the way that we think. If we see a whole bunch of people doing it, then we think there must be a reason why. You know, so if someone's coming, if you're the first person, if someone knocks on the door to sign a petition, there's a good chance you won't sign it. But if you see 30 names on there, or pages and pages of names who have signed something, you probably will, right?
Well, and especially in conditions of uncertainty. By the way, the book on the screen is actually someone who's become a friend of Sharon and is one of the de facto pillars of scientific research on the psychology of influence and compliance, basically how do you sell. And he's one of the first people who pointed out the importance of social proof. And in the absence of certain action, we tend to follow the herd. And Sharon, you actually have a story about doing that with your friends in college or something. What was that story?
Oh, so when I was in college and I was studying psychology, which I've been studying my whole life, and I was single, and I got this idea of creating a survey and administering it in front of a bar on a Friday night. And so a couple of my girlfriends and I, we wrote the survey, and the survey was, we pretended that we were working for a magazine, and we were writing an article on dating behavior. And so we had, and it was about, you know, how men see women and dating, and we did things like getting their income, the kind of work they did, and you know, what they'd like to do on a date, and what was important to them, and where they would go, and you know, their attitudes about money and spending it, and so we stood outside of this bar in Manhattan called Maxwell's Plum, which was a, you know, popular hangout at the time. You know, upper middle class people were hanging out there, and people created lines behind us. We had a line going all the way down the block, and as a matter of fact, you know, we were there for, I don't know, the whole night basically. There was a smaller bar next door, and the manager of the bar came out, and he invited us to come in and have drinks if we brought the line inside. And so we brought the line inside, and I mean, this line was beginning to wrap around the block of people coming to take the survey. And I mean, why are they taking the survey, you know? But there was a line, people got online, and you know, we got free drinks. We didn't meet anybody we were that interested in, unfortunately. But we formed a line. People got on it to take something that was bogus. And I'm sorry, Glenn.
Well, it's fortunate for me that you didn't meet anybody that you were that interested in that day.
Oh, that's very sweet.
I have one more quick story. I know we're on this slide for a long time, but I have one more quick story about social proof to illustrate the power, and this comes from Cialdini's book, actually. And apparently, there is a bank in Singapore that almost got shut down because a bus was late. There is a bus stop in front of the bank, and the bus was late. And so people started waiting online for the bus, and the line got longer and longer. And sooner or later, there were people who were passing the bank who had accounts in the bank, and they thought that there was a run on the bank. And as a result, you know what? There actually was a run on the bank,
right,
because of the phenomenon of the social proof in the crowd. So social proof is extremely...
I want to tell two more things with it because it's just so potent. You know, the whole idea of canned laughter, how much we all hate it. But when they do surveys on how funny is a show, the ones with canned laughter get rated funnier than the ones without.
Sure.
And another time, like after that experience in front of Maxwell's Plum, I wanted to see what it took to get people to stand on line. So I started out with a couple of friends, and we would just form a line randomly in the middle of Manhattan. We'd form a line, and people would line up behind us. And then I wanted to see, you know, I wanted to see how powerful that was. And so I would just go and stand someplace and start looking up, and people would start standing behind me and looking up. It was really fun.
That's evil. That's evil.
I know,
So
evil.
we want you all to use your powers for good. So okay,
Right.
let's talk about how to get some powers.
So, and this is, you know, forming a line and getting people to line up behind you. So, the more other people are doing it, the more correct it seems to be, and that's why it's really important to have real live people's stories, because the more of those that you have, the more likely other people are to be converted.
Sure.
And I mean, we know lots of times a site will get lots of traffic, but they can't seem to make sales or clients, and lots of times it's just because of a lack of proof. And there you go again. You know, my hydroxyl purifier. Highly motivated person. There seems to be a solution, and then you get skeptical unless you're persuaded. There are a lot of convincing stories.
Well, and you have the word right underlined here. And do you want to say a little more about what you mean by the right testimonial? Like,
We're going to be talking a lot about what a good testimonial is, and not all testimonials work. I mean, if it's a vacuous testimonial, like, oh yeah, I really like them. I mean, yeah, big deal. And unfortunately, as stupid as that sounds, the kinds of recommendations that you see on LinkedIn sometimes are like worthless. So.
Well, so what I like to tell people is that testimonials that sell are very specific about specific results that support specific claims, and that ideally, almost essentially, the testimonials should support your unique selling proposition. So if you go back to the Golden Glove framework, where we've identified a very specific problem that people have and we're telling them that we're better at solving it, we've got a unique promise that's different than everybody else in the industry, well, the testimonial should serve to support that claim with specific results, specific and relevant results in enthusiastic, contagious language. So, shall I go to the next slide?
Well, I mean, we talk about, you know, some testimonials that aren't so great. So the ones that we're talking about, like on LinkedIn, where they're going, oh, great idea, terrific, blah, 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 you know, signed Bob, or the rah-rah things that are platitudes without substance, or another way that you can get a testimonial that won't sell is if it's very stiff and academic sounding, you know, because nobody will read it. They fall asleep in the middle of it.
Got it. And great testimonials are?
Oh, look at the muscles on that guy. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. You know, recently, one of your favorite people, Glenn, saw that picture, and he heard me joking about it, and he sent me an email saying, "I'm so glad you made that joke about his muscles," because he thought that picture was really funny.
Okay. Well, just a little bit of an attention getter. See ourselves in caricature. Okay.
Yes. So as you mentioned, ideally, and the best testimonials are benefit focused and main benefit focused. What's the main thing that you want to talk about? And then, perhaps other benefits as well. And benefits are things that make people feel good about wanting to work with you. We hear things like, I really like working with them because they call me right back. They're always there when I want to talk to them. I got fast turnaround, made everyone in the process feel respected and appreciated, explained what I needed to know in simple terms, made it seem easy and almost fun. There are tangible results that I could see and hear. So these are real specific. Specific is much better than general. They're outcome driven. They talk about, well, what's the result of working with you? They're concrete, they're measurable, improvement from problem to solution, something that you can see, hear, or feel. Production increased. I got higher quality product that my clients noticed. There was less equipment downtime. Sales increased. The team is getting better, getting along better, which is evidence because they're taking less time off. You hear more laughter in meetings. Or another tangible thing that I can see, I've been dealing with this for forever, and finally my rash disappeared.
I'm really glad that your rash disappeared.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that, honey. So how do we plan for a really good testimonial program? Well, there are questions that you should be asking yourself even before reaching out to your customers, and we'll tell you how to do that. But you want to know, well, who are your clients, and are there different segments? Because you might want to get different testimonials to represent each of the segments.
So give an example of that, because I think that's a more advanced marketing concept. So for example, when I'm selling a book on guinea pigs, there's a segment of the market that is interested in buying a guinea pig for their children, and they really need to know that they're safe and how do you take care of them, and how to keep them clean and sweet smelling. And then there's a segment of the market that's interested in breeding guinea pigs, and they actually are a significant segment of buyers, and they need to know things like when do you separate the genders of the babies so that they don't breed again, and how do you tell the genders at what age, and there's some very specific gender information that they're looking for. So you can tell that those are two entirely different groups of people. And what you're saying here, and what I like overall about what you're saying, is that, look, most people say you get testimonials when people are enthusiastic about your product, and you say, hey, could I have a testimonial? And I think that's like the dumbest way to do it, because
it's catch as catch can then.
It's catch as catch can, and you're not methodically and strategically planning to support all the claims that you're making.
So, for example, I mean, another way to think about it, what if you have this incredible hair product? It's a systemless shampoo and conditioner that has many different benefits, and one of them is that it's incredibly moisturizing to dry hair. Another way of talking about it is that it makes your hair very shiny. Another way of talking about it is that it's all natural. Another way of talking about it is that because it's all natural, it's got this exquisite scent that you couldn't get from some kind of artificial perfume that was put in. It has a luxurious feel in your hands. And so those are different things that people might be looking for, and different people are going to be the issue they're trying to solve is different. So, for example, someone might be looking for an all-natural product because they have very sensitive skin. So you would talk to them differently than you would talk to somebody who's got super dry hair. You would talk to them differently than someone who wishes their hair had more shine. So those are three different segments of people with different desperate problems that they're trying to solve.
Very good. Very good.
And then you want to think about, well, what are the claims that I'm trying to prove? Because when you're getting the testimonials, you're going to try to draw out proof for those claims. And, rather than just getting something generic like it really worked well. You want to know specifically what it was, and you're looking for proof for, wow, my hair never, like the Pantene Shine, for example, or my hair is now so soft and luxurious. I've never had that before. And how are you solving that better than anyone else is doing it? Because you really want to create a story from all these different testimonials that support what you're trying to sell. It sounds like you were going to ask a question or something.
Well, no, I just wanted to say that I think the added thing that I've heard you do when you consult with people is not only what's the unique selling proposition and what claim within them are you looking to prove, but how, what is the emotional benefit? How does that make people feel? Because then you attune your ear to listen for those feelings and help the customer amplify them by asking questions and intervening at those times when you interview them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you really do need to be strategic with your testimonial program, and it's not really possible, I think, to get stellar testimonials without putting some forethought.
It helps you. I'm so sorry, honey.
No, you got it.
It helps you when, I wasn't talking about that specifically, and I think it's a really good point, but there are different roles that you play to your consumer depending upon what you are. So, for example, we've talked about archetypes a lot in different presentations that we've done, and I don't know if people have heard them or not, but, who are you to these people? Are you a mentor? Are you, are you a lover? Like Godiva is a lover. The New York Times is a mentor. Glenn's a mentor. There are different products that are like wizards that transform. Are you a creator? Are you almost like solving problems by creating brand new ways of looking at things? Or, are you Crayola? And that's a creator. Are you helping people to express themselves?
Got it.
So, right. So you have to figure out who you are to them also. And it's really cool to get testimonials that help support your archetypal image.
What story are you in? Are you a wizard to them? Are you a creator? Are you a hero? Are you a rogue? What story are you in?
Are you a caretaker?
Okay, so I guess I upstaged you. I'm sorry. You were talking about the emotional aspects of it.
That's okay. That's really fine. And you know what, Glenn? What gets exciting is that you're really excited about what we're talking about, and you jump ahead, and I think that's cool.
I'm sorry.
Because you're excited about it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can move on to the next one.
Okay.
So now we're talking about what's the format for, ideally for a testimonial. And, for a number of years, Glenn and I were, all over the whole video thing, and we were working on that, and, creating videos of this and that and the other thing. And honestly, there is a major problem with video, because unless you're a Hollywood actor or, you're really, really trained, most people really hate being in front of a camera. I mean, it's like seeing a deer in the headlights, and I know you've seen that. And I just looked at, somebody was showing me a website this morning where there's a video of this woman talking to us about her services, and she looked scared out of her mind. It seems ridiculous. She's trying to be very, very current, because the woman did web design, and she's trying to tell you how she's going to help you with your web design, but meanwhile her pupils are defocused, and she's not looking she's looking someplace, but not looking as if she's looking you in the eye, and she's scared. And like, I'm so involved in looking at the scare on her face, I'm not even hearing what she's saying. So it's hard to get people to relax in front of a camera. They're much more worried about how they look and how they sound, and they forget about what they're doing and that they're talking about you. And then even when they have moments, then you have to cut the video to make for clips, and then you see the thing spinning and stuff. They'll try to do animation to make it look more interesting, but it just goes to show that they cut something out.
It becomes awkward. You see the jump cuts because people are in different positions. When you remove the pieces that aren't really authoritative or valuable, you can't really get the sound bites in the same way that you can when you have an audio testimonial. And I think that's really important, because when you think about it, you're looking for support for specific claims. You're looking for the right emotional language. You're looking for people that are willing to do it and take the time to provide this for you. You have to really guide them to have the right feelings. Sharon's going to talk more about what you have to go through to get them to that point. And so now, if you're going to remove the ability to edit, you're really dramatically reducing the percentages of testimonials that you'll be able to use. And so your probability of coming up with good support for all your claims is much lower at that point.
So move on, honey.
Okay.
So what about just getting them to write a recommendation or write their testimonial? So what happens? You're on LinkedIn, and somebody says, could you write me a recommendation? And you want to, you want to be supportive. We all want to, be nice and take care of people. But I know I'm not a copywriter. And actually, I am a bit of a copywriter. Glenn's told me I've become much better as a copywriter. But for the most part, people don't see themselves as copywriters, and they're not exactly sure what to say. And it's like public speaking. It's terrifying. That's people are more afraid of public speaking than they are of dying, and because they think they have bad writing skills, they have bad presentation skills, and it becomes about their ability to communicate rather than telling a story about you. And so you get either lackluster, not very compelling, or these academic sounding things, and they forget about what it was they had a wonderful experience with you. Now they're left with a bad taste in their mouth, even worse. And like you've sent them on a school assignment. Like, oh my God, I wish I didn't have to do that. So not too good.
Customers aren't copywriters.
Well, most of them aren't. I mean, some of us might have customers who are copywriters, but most of us don't.
Well, and most of us also wouldn't be asking for the testimonial via LinkedIn, which at least gives you some kind of structured support and reason to do it. Most of us would be asking directly to our customers via an email or a phone call, and that's even more awkward. So,
I agree. Well, why audio? Well, I mean, think about it. We have been rewarded and taught to talk on the phone since we were little adorable kids, and Mommy puts you on the phone and goes, "Go ahead, honey, answer the phone." "Hey, how are you?" and oh, isn't she adorable? Isn't he adorable? Oh, did you hear him? Wasn't that adorable? So we have a lot of rewards for talking on the phone, and what's really cool about it is that while in meetings people interrupt each other all the time, we have learned that on the phone, you talk, you let the other person talk. You talk, you let the other person talk. So we even know, we know how to talk better than we do in in-person meetings, which is quite amazing when you think about it. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to comb your hair. And so we're more relaxed. And in that environment, because we're more relaxed, we're more likely to emote. And particularly if we're talking about something that we want to talk about, then there's an excitement in telling our stories and having someone who listens. How often do we have that luxury of someone really listening and wanting to hear our stories, and you can do that.
And
then, go ahead.
Could I say a couple of things here because I'm kind of excited about what you're saying?
Go.
So I just want to highlight that you're saying that there's a primitive emotional bond that people have with the telephone because they have been brought up with it from the time they were very little. And they got a lot of rewards for it. They socialize. It's part of how they form their identity when they were teenagers, talking to their friends, and that you're more likely to pull out those positive associations and feelings if you talk to them on the phone. The other thing I want to make sure is clear is that you're talking about actually doing like a full-length interview on the phone in order to make sure that you've maximized the possibilities that they've articulated, and then you look for sound bites after that. But the real thing I want to say is, what tends to happen with technology is that technology evolves, and it's in the last couple of years that it's possible to distribute video on the internet so easily. Everybody tends to assume that the medium is the message, and you really better be doing video because video is a new technology. It's all the rave, and everybody's doing it. And if you're not doing it, that you're not going to keep up with the competition. And I can't tell you how many times I have seen things change like that because I've been around online for a very long time. And I remember, for example, when people were saying, email is really dead. You're not going to be able to use email anymore. There's, all of these spam laws are going to be coming out. This was way back, like, over a decade ago, before there were any laws about spam, and and besides, these blogs are coming into vogue, and you really have to communicate with the blogs. And you know what I did back then? I prepared to make even more money with email, and it worked. And why is that? Because email is the same medium that people use to communicate with their grandma. Email is the same medium they use to communicate with their overseas partners when they're in the Army. And there's just nothing more intimate than getting that email. And so I knew that I was onto that primitive bonding experience, and I was going to maximize it. And I think that we're in a similar paradigm right now, in as much as people are moving from audio to video on the internet, so that if you develop some really powerful audio testimonials and you leverage this primitive bond that Sharon is talking about, rather than following the crowd yourself and jumping all over the video, I think that you're going to be differentiating yourself from the crowd and being in a much more powerful position. So, Sharon, I don't know if you really thought all that through the way that you came to this. I think you just came to it because audio seems so much more powerful to you, but I think it's a really good point.
And, the whole thing that you mentioned before, you can edit audio seamlessly, and then you create transcripts from that. And so you've got that 1-2 punch of people can listen to the audio, or they can read, or they can do both. And you get them on different representation systems, from from a neuro-linguistic programming, NLP point of view, and hypnosis point of view. You're attacking 3 senses. It's the seeing, the hearing, because with audio you're hearing, and with written it's the you're actually looking and seeing the words and getting the sense. So it's
so maybe the third sense would be feelings.
Right.
And so what you're saying there that would be familiar to people involved with direct response is you're presenting a kind of a dual pathway. Some people might say, well, I don't think my prospects would want to listen to a whole audio on a sales page, and use different lengths of sound bites depending upon the sales situation. For higher risk situations, high ticket items, you use longer audios. For kind of no-brainer decisions, you use shorter clips. But regardless, you can provide a written testimonial to go along with the audio for people that just want to scan it, and that way you've covered both audiences. So why don't we talk about some specific examples then?
So, earlier we were talking about feel good versus more specific. And so we were going to give some examples here, and we're using Glenn's because it was convenient, rather than, it's not that we're trying to sell Glenn stuff here, but it's just convenient to use it. So this is a feel good testimonial. It's nice. What I like most about Glenn is I get a sense of his integrity and his no-hype approach to business building and coaching. I think he's absolutely a winning choice for anybody who wants serious and sustained growth for their online business. And this even had a little bit of specific when it says serious and sustained growth, but it's still more general because he doesn't give you numbers or whatever. And it's nice. It's nice, but it's fairly general. So move to the next one. And now here's one that is very specific, and it's a written one, and it's much better. In the 30 days after my new offer and landing page, we have to fix that, honey. In the 30 days after my new offer and landing page launched, I blew away my previous best month by a little over 325%. 3,500 versus 11,500. Next month, I should be near 20,000. Thanks again, Glenn. So now that's real specific, and that's cool.
It's outcome driven.
Yes. And so we want to show you the critical difference between plain text, and that was a good one, wasn't it?
Yep.
Versus highly compelling audio testimonials that really knock your socks off. So some people think the only value of an audio testimonial is to prove the client was real and that you didn't just make it up. But we're going to show you how stellar audio testimonials work for a much more important reason, and that's because they charge the report of the results with emotion. So we're going to let you see for yourself. So here is a written testimonial that's really excellent. And David Oliver said, I spent 15 minutes letting Glenn look at my site and took a few of his simple suggestions he gave me. 3 days later, my conversion rate was up 44%. My back-end profits were up 31%. He even bumped my email open and click-through rates. Those 15 minutes took my business from losing money right into the black, and I've been at this market for years already. My only regret is waiting so long to work with him. I highly recommend that you work with Glenn. Now that's good, specific, outcome, all that. But now, listen. Go to the next slide. So David, talk to me about the same experience.
To play this, I have to cut my audio for a second. So I'll come back when this is over, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. One.
And I'll tell you what I did. Went to Glenn, and literally within 15 minutes, he said, I think this is what the problem is. And it was very simple. One thing I will tell you is I knew the solution was simple. I knew it wasn't going to be like, I'm going to have to reinvent the universe, split the atom, spend $1.5 million to get it going. I knew it was simple. It eluded me. He gave me something, and I was like, this makes sense. I thought of this, and what he told me, another friend of mine who does well had mentioned a little bit of like what Glenn told me a while ago, but not in a way that was really clear, made a lot of sense, and it wasn't complete. So Glenn, he told me, he explained it, he said what to do. It's a fairly easy fix, and I basically ran a test, and it was amazing. The results were amazing. And I don't like to focus too much on conversion rate, but the conversion rate bumped up 44%, and more importantly, when I look at all the numbers, they were up 31%. So the profits were up 31%, and when I factored in my banner and email test, the banner click-through rates were up, the email open rates were almost 20% increased.
Well,
The click-through rates on email, those were almost 20%. So to put it in perspective, we were able to get more clicks for less cost and a higher conversion rate with the same price product, which means a lot more profits. And now I can clearly see the path. He helped to put me on the right road on where to go. I mean, we were kind of like, I'm up in Jersey. If I wanted to go to Florida, I mean, we were deciding, should we take Route 80, 95 North, 95 South? Glenn got us on 95 South. So we're on the right road, heading in the right direction, and we're going to simply be able to really turn up the volume and, and get the thing really moving. So this really turned everything around, because we've been, for, a year and a half, we've been kind of in limbo that we have a business, it's making some money, but it's on the ad spend, it's losing money, so we're only making money off old customers, we're not making money on new customers. Now we're going to go back and get new customers.
Are you back? He's almost back.
I'm back now.
Great. So, I mean, wasn't that powerful? And to hear him with that delight and excitement in his voice, it's a huge difference, because you can feel the results. So, and the other thing is that, he had a chance to elaborate. When he's writing, giving you a written testimonial, he's trying to be concise. And this gives you all of that enthusiasm, plus all the benefits that he can elaborate on, and you still get the written one if you want it. And reading is actually hard work, because you have to be engaged and thinking, and when you're listening, you don't have to think. You can just get infused with the inflection and the intonation and the emotion. Henry Ford said, thinking is the hardest work there is. It's no wonder so few people do it. And so, feeling the results, you're inspired to action, and I think that's true. So, how do we create an audio testimonial that sells? Well, unfortunately, you can't get a good testimonial without applying some elbow grease. It takes work, and it's worth it. So here's what you can do. Starting out, you have to recruit customers to give feedback. And, you can send a quick opinion survey, subject line, I need your help, Joe. And then ask them, what were you looking for just before you bought the product or service? At the time, what objections or concerns did you have, if any? Then, did we deliver on those concerns? Was there any way we delighted or surprised you? How can we improve our services? Is it okay to quote you? And then when you get someone who was thrilled, send them an email with, hey, I rewarded things that you said below. Is this an accurate representation? Can I quote you? And then that gets you a good written testimonial, but also get their permission to follow up with a telephone interview.
So I want to make sure people know how valuable this slide is, because in and of itself, even if you never did the audio testimonial, you get much better results if you send out an email survey like this. People don't like to be asked for testimonials. It puts them on the spot, but they love to give opinions. And I need to credit Brian Keith Boyles. I spoke with him once about getting testimonials, and this is what he told me. And you will get 10 times more replies if you send out the email and just ask them to hit reply, as opposed to asking them to click a link and go to a survey to answer the same questions. And so this little procedure here, send them the survey, have them fill it in on a reply, and then when you see someone that's thrilled, write back, reword everything in more testimonial, benefit-laden language, get their approval. That's a great way to get written testimonials, but the best thing is if you can get permission to follow up with those people with a telephone interview. So, Sherry, talk about that, honey.
Well, I just did.
Well, why can't you do it yourself?
Well, I'm going to talk about that, but you sound a little bit softer all of a sudden.
How's this?
Better?
Good.
Good, okay. So, this is very, very important. You cannot do an audio testimonial yourself. So, if you've got to find somebody else to do it, and it could be a buddy, and maybe you have an agreement that you do your buddy does yours. It comes across as too self-serving, and you won't get an authentic response. And not only that, we have embarrassment. Like, so Glenn, tell me something good about me.
Oh, you have silky, soft, white skin.
Oh, honey, stop it.
Great. Oh, I see what you're saying. The problem is that the natural social response when people start to say good things about you is to shut them down.
Yeah.
And that's
stop it. Anybody could do that. No, no big deal.
And that's the opposite of what you want to do.
It's the opposite. And whereas if you're, if I'm talking to David Oliver about how terrific Glenn Livingston is, I'll let him go on and on and on. If you're talking to one of my clients about how great I did in pulling out a testimonial, you'll let them go on and on and on. I'll get embarrassed and go, stop it. Maybe I don't go stop it, but I do in some way. I stop them from doing it because we all feel, unless you're some major egotist, which most of us aren't, you get embarrassed. And we've been taught that we're not supposed to be braggy.
Sure.
So you want to team up with a friend, they do your audios, you do theirs, and you're going to do better. And of course you want to train them how to do it. So go ahead. So how do you set it up? So you've got your people, and you need, and again, this is your friend, you need to do a pre-interview. So your friend calls up your client, and the call is just to create an appointment. And during that time, when you make the appointment, you are trying to create a bond, trying to create some area of commonality so that the person feels like you're a friend, and they're going to be much more open to telling you a story, telling you what's real. So you might have common interests or common complaint. You might come from the same place originally. I've used it. I've told people about this before. When I was doing testimonials for Glenn several months ago, found out that this one woman and I both had cute little dogs. And we ended up sending pictures of our dogs back and forth. And so by the time, just a few days later when we did the interview, we already had this connection, and so she wanted to tell me everything. Or with this, I did an interview, and did you notice I said interview rather than testimonial? Because interview is I'm really asking them for feedback. Testimonial is I'm saying, tell me something good about this person. So I'm doing an interview.
People love to be asked about their opinions. They don't like to be asked for testimonials.
Right. I mean, how many times have we seen buttons that say your opinion counts, and it makes people feel better?
So just talk to me a little bit more about the importance of finding that commonality and the bond. You use that when you talk to them the next time?
So yeah. So then, it's like when we are taught to make a connection with someone, and like, how about those Jets? How about those Celtics? It's trying to establish a connection so that we feel comfortable with each other, and then we're part of the same tribe in some way. Whereas, you know what it's like if you're with someone who is totally different from you and you have no common ground. It's like you can't talk to them.
It's like when you see an old friend from college and you say, remember the time that I held your head while you were throwing up? Right. And immediately you have that bond and the memories come flooding back, and now you're a familiar as opposed to being a stranger.
A stranger, right. So you want to eliminate the sense of being a stranger. And so whenever I'm interviewing somebody, I try to find a connection. And then the next time you call, you've already established, oh, yeah, I know who you are. I'm comfortable with you, and I can tell a story.
And that starts the momentum flowing.
They'll relax, they'll open up. And now this is just a little lesson in interviewing skills, and it's called probing and clarifying. So you probe to get all the good things out, and then you clarify to make sure you understand what they meant by each point that they make. So we call that probing for completeness. So Glenn, may I interview you on something to demonstrate
Sure.
probing for completeness?
Sure you can.
I want to say something totally ridiculous. Okay, what did you like about the guy who came to talk to us about the air conditioner today?
He was straightforward and basing his estimates on very specific details, which I mostly understood.
And when you say straightforward, tell me what you mean. Now, see, I'm going from a comment that he made to clarifying it. What did you mean by straightforward?
There was no technical jargon in what he was saying. You know how sometimes when you talk to technical people, and I don't have time to learn everything there is to learn about air conditioning systems before I make a $5,000 decision. And so he...
6,000 actually.
Well, now I'm depressed. Because we actually decided to go forward. But he wasn't using this confuse and conquer mentality that a lot of those guys do. Gee, well, it seems like your ganglioplex in the Elkatron is, 3 times over the...
It's formaldehyde.
Right, it's formaldehyde. And you sit there like, what? I'm a man, I have testosterone, I'm supposed to know these things, but I don't know. And he wasn't like that. He used plain English, and I felt comfortable asking him questions, and he wasn't trying to confuse and conquer me.
Mm-hmm. And what else did you like about him?
Nothing.
That was it?
That was the main... I mean, he was a nice enough guy, and he was a... he obviously liked you, so why didn't...
Come?
Oh, he thought you were cute.
No, why else?
Well, I think he thought he could make the sale, too, but I think he really thought that you were cute.
I'll bet. Did you notice how I was trying to bond with him and make him feel comfortable?
Yes, I didn't like that.
But how was I doing that?
You found out something personal about him. He was about to have a baby, right. And you're asking him all kinds of questions about having a baby. You were asking him how many calls does he make in a given day, and how long does each call take? Is it frustrating for him? You were talking about his really cool laser pointy thing, which none of these would have been benefits that I would have given him a testimonial about, but I understand what you were doing.
So those weren't testimonial things, but I was, I'm demonstrating that because I was trying to make him feel comfortable and bonded, so you want to take better care of us.
Sure.
And then in the
which are good skills to have when you're doing a testimonial interview.
Exactly, that's my point.
I see.
And so if you had asked me that question, the other thing that I liked when he mentioned that heat pump, for example, when he backed down immediately when I said that, we don't keep the house really hot in the wintertime.
We're the only people in New Hampshire who don't use heat.
Right.
Because we like it cold.
Right.
Got it. Okay, so that's what probing and clarifying is, I understand.
Right. So you want to probe for completeness. What else? What else? What else? Because as long as you're doing the testimonial, you want to get as much positive feedback as you can. So you're going to get the things that support your unique proposition, and you might pick up some other things along the way that might be very helpful to selling your product. And then when they say something general, you want to know what they mean by that. So straightforward, what did you mean by that? Easy, what do you mean by that? Convenient, what do you mean by that? Oh, they are the greatest people in the world to work with. What do you mean by that? When I teach probing and clarifying in our little school that we have, Glenn, I will ask people to imagine that standing outside the door is a very attractive woman. And some people would have stopped right there if they were, doing something, doing a survey, and somebody said attractive woman. But like when you ask them to describe the attractive woman, and you have 10 people in the room that you're training, you'll have 10 different images of an attractive woman. Brown hair, red hair, blonde hair, tall, slight, very shapely, very thin, looks just like my wife, just looks like my girlfriend, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Different kinds of straight nose, upturned nose, big blue eyes, smoky dark eyes. As many different images as you can imagine that could possibly be attractive. But how often do you read something, an attractive woman walked in, and they stopped right there. They didn't know what that meant.
Got it. Right. So you really need to dimensionalize the specific words. And people will want to skip over things and be efficient in their communication, but you don't really want to let them be. You want to get the gory details.
Right. There was an adorable baby. Well, what is an adorable baby? Right? So those are good ways of showing that, because we all have different images of what's attractive and adorable.
Got it. Very interesting.
And we also have very different images of what's easy, or what's convenient, or what's affordable. So they mean different things to different people. We need the specifics of what those things mean.
So you need to listen carefully for words that might mean different things to different people, and clarify what those words mean to your testifier.
Right. I just want to testify. Okay. So there's one thing that you want to avoid. Remember, this is not really an interview. This is a testimonial. So you might hear some negative feedback. And in this case, even though if you were doing a market research interview, you want to get all that out, you want to avoid building on the negatives, because people can get on a wall of complaining and then have a hard time getting back to the good, and that can, particularly happen if you happen to get somebody in a grumpy mood. And recently, I don't know if I told you this, Glenn, I was doing testimonials for somebody, and we lost one. I don't know what the heck happened, but we lost it. And so I had to call the guy back. So the first time I did it, he was in this real bubbly mood, and the second time he started out really grumpy. And it took me about, I don't know, honestly, because I won't give up. It took me about 15 minutes to get him back in a good mood. I had to tell him jokes, and oh my God, and finally got him back in a good mood. But you can catch somebody in a bad mood. I mean, maybe something bad happened in the office, maybe somebody got hurt, all kinds of things. Maybe they ate something that disagreed with them, they're not feeling well. And if you give people an opportunity to be negative and to get it out of their system, they might dump all over you, so you have to be careful. So, but what can you do? So if somebody starts a complaint, and remember, you're doing it for somebody else, or somebody else is doing it for you, you want to acknowledge the feedback with a lot of thanks. Oh, that was very helpful. I'll definitely pass it along. Thank you so much. But instead of going for more, was there anything else that bothered you? Don't do that, because they'll tell you. You want to steer them back to the positive. Wow, I got it. Well, I will definitely tell George about that. But all in all, you were telling me you had a positive experience. Am I right? Well, what else was good about it? And so you move them back into, oh, yeah. Oh, he was a really good guy, blah, 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 whatever.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
And then in that framework, you want to end on a positive note. You want to end with good feelings about the product or service, the person that you're getting the testimonial for. And so you want to give them a lot of appreciation, because hopefully they're going to come back and do more business with that person. So, Well, that was really wonderful that you had such a great experience with Joe. And my goodness, you've made my job so easy because you had so many wonderful things to say. That was a super interview. Thanks so much. This has been very helpful.
You know, I mean, this is maybe seems like a minor point, but you're going to be interviewing your best customers, ideally to get testimonials. And so the quality and tenor of that conversation is likely to impact what they buy afterwards. And you've actually, I think, been working with some clients who turned out that not on purpose, but it turned out that the process of doing the testimonial interview kind of stimulated more business.
Yes.
Yeah, which is a nice argument for return on investment for doing.
It's a nice perk, right?
Yeah. If you do these right, you actually are bonding with customers and stimulating more business. If you do them wrong, there is some risk there. But
well, that's the whole thing about asking for a written testimonial from somebody and making them work for it, because then they end up with a slightly bad taste in their mouth without having worked with you.
I mean, you want to know something interesting? I in my position, I'm not infrequently asked to review books and write reviews on Amazon. And I was a customer of a woman who wrote a book on raw foods. I was very, very interested in raw foods, and actually I paid her for some coaching, and I bought everything she had. And when she figured out who I was, then I called her and asked her if I could interview her about how she marketed the book, and she sold like 15,000 books on Amazon. So I wanted to know how she did that, and then she figured out what my credentials were, and she said, "Oh, could you review the book for me?" And I thought this woman was the cat's meow. I really learned more from her than anybody else in several years of researching how to eat. And I was happy to do it, but you know what? It's been about 5 months and I haven't done it yet, because every time I go back to do it, I think I really have to do a good one. And I'm a marketer. I mean, I know how to write copy. I know what would sell, and because I'm afraid it's not going to be good enough, I don't write the testimonial. But you know what else I haven't done? I haven't called her for another coaching session, and I haven't bought any more products from her because I'm kind of avoiding her.
Right, because you feel embarrassed.
Yeah, and that's one of the dangers that you run when you put people in that awkward position. So
there's one more thing I want people to remember.
Okay.
Go to the next slide.
Okay.
And that is, remember to get permission to use the interview. So you say, gee, that was so great, may we quote you? And 99% of the time they'll say yes. Once in a great while, someone will ask for details, and that's great. You say, well, we'll be using parts of what we talked about as an audio, and there may be a transcript of what we discussed. And it's very, very, very rare that someone will say no. They might ask to see it or hear it first, and of course you share it with them and let them see it first, because they're going to see it anyhow. So sure.
Well, you can also say to them at that point, is there some specific comment that you made that you're concerned about that you'd like me to edit out?
Right, that's a good point.
And that's usually what they're worried about.
And then I want to give you a heads up also. Once in a great while, somebody agrees to do an interview because they really have got some nasty they want to express. And it doesn't happen very often, but it could. And just so you know, it's okay. We can't have everyone love us. As a matter of fact, the more successful we are, the more there's a chance that someone will not like us. So take the feedback, say thanks, let it go. Just let it go. Find a replacement, plain and simple. And the truth is, if you have a really great interviewer, some of these people can be turned around. But in any case, it's par for the course. It's to be expected, and just keep going.
Very good.
So, by the way, if we were doing it for you, you wouldn't pay for that. So,
right.
Just so you know.
Right.
And Glenn, now I'm going to turn it over to you, because this is the part where I get embarrassed. So.
Yeah. So this is the 2-minute sales pitch, where hopefully you agree that Sharon has delivered some very good how-to information. I tried to pour her heart out about teaching you how to do this yourself. And I just want to kind of reiterate that there's some darn good reasons to have Sharon do it for you instead. You can look at the whole offer at testimonials.sell.com, but I would encourage everybody to stay on through the next just couple of minutes because there is a special bonus for people just on the webinar. And Sharon has spoken to over 60,000 people. That's not a made-up number. That's for real, about purchase satisfaction. And she's consulted for dozens of Fortune 500 companies, been on...
And boy, am I tired.
Well, it's been over the course of 25 years, right? Yes. And some of the companies you can see on here and the radio and TV and newspapers that she's been around are listed on the page, some of them. Stephen Covey, a lot of you might know him, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said about her ability to draw people out in particular that his expectations were exceeded and he was impressed by the character and competence of Dr. Livingston. Her ability to draw people out in unique and creative ways and apply the gathered data to complicated analyses made my experience working with her a memorable and fun one. And so I just wanted to point out that you'd really be hard-pressed to find someone else that's more sensitive to language that sells, more capable of making that happen than Sharon. So here's how it works. Here's some of the options. Before I go to the options, I just wanted to make a little ROI argument. So I'm not allowed to promise you any specific conversion bump, but let me just say that it wouldn't be outrageous to see a 25% bump in conversion if you added, 4 to 6 really good testimonials supporting your USP, and especially if you didn't have them before, and especially if you didn't have the kind of testimonials that sell supporting your USP before. And so in this example, I'm taking someone who maybe makes $5,000 a month, and I'm figuring they've got half of that as advertising costs, $1,000 in hard goods costs, shipping and inventory and operations and cost of goods, that kind of thing. And that leaves them with $1,500 or a 30% net profit percentage. And if you bump that up by 25%, you get another $1,250 of income, but your cost structure doesn't change. So your net goes from $1,500 to $2,750, or to a 44% net profit. And if you do the math, then that's another $1,250 a year, which means that you will have paid for Sharon's service over the course of just a couple of months, and then after that you're pocketing an extra $15,000 a year. So if that works for you, then even at this low level of income, it kind of becomes a no-brainer. But there is something that's actually a lot more important, having to do with the unlimited traffic technique. And what that means is that when you make 46% more profits, and just to show you where that number comes from, if the profit percentage afterwards is 40% and it was 30% beforehand, then you divide 44 by 30 and you get a 46% increase. So if you have a 46% increase in net profits, well, what that means is you can actually afford to buy more advertising, and sometimes a lot more advertising, and that can dramatically bump your traffic. And that's why sometimes these 25-30% bumps in conversion, which can be achieved by adding 4 to 6 really solid testimonials to your site, sometimes those bumps in conversions actually wind up bumping the business by a lot more than 25%, because all of a sudden you've turned the corner and now you can afford to buy so much more traffic. You can also afford to start implementing the unlimited traffic technique, and all that means is when I make more money per visitor in the market than most anybody else, really I win, because let's say I make $3 a visitor and you only make $1 a visitor, I can just offer you $1.50 for your traffic. And not that everybody's going to do this, but you know what? If you're dealing with customer service and inventory and quality assurance and accounting and all the difficult issues that you've got in a regular business, and all of a sudden I say, I can give you more money, which will be pure profit for you, and you don't have to deal with all that, it starts to be pretty tempting. And so whoever makes the most money per visitor in a market wins. Traffic's never a problem when you make the most per visitor, and it's always a problem when you do. And conversion is how you get there, and that testimonials that sell as service is about supercharging your conversion. So because there's a lot of variables involved in setting up anybody's particular strategic testimonial generating campaign, we start the whole thing with a simple $100 half-hour consultation. It's all done by Sharon personally, and that $100 is absolutely guaranteed to be worth 10 times what you pay for it. And why can I say that? Well, first of all, Sharon gets $1,000 an hour or more as a marketing consultant elsewhere. So just in terms of the sheer value per hour that you would pay for her time, that's true. But because of her experience, she can help you hone in on the unique selling proposition. She can help you figure out what are the right emotional hot buttons that go along with that. How do you develop your testimonial generation plan if you're going to do it yourself, and what are the objections to the sale that you might not have thought of. And because she's interviewed so many people in so many different markets, in fact, most markets, consumer and professional, and even medical, it's likely that she knows something about the driving forces in your market that you don't know. And you know how once in a while, if I look back over my marketing career, there are a couple of 10-minute conversations that really turned the corner for me, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I can look back and you know, one thing was when Perry Marshall told me, if your marketing's not working, break it up into pieces. You know, there are just simple things people say over lunch that make a dramatic difference. And my experience is that Sharon has those things if you talk to her about a particular market. Not guaranteed 100% she will have that, but it's likely. And if for any reason you don't believe that it was worth the money, then just let her know at the end of the session, and she'll be happy to refund you. So even if you don't plan to go forward with the done-for-you service, even if you just want a little help figuring out how to do this yourself, I'd recommend that you get the $100 strategic consultation at testimonials.sell.com. And in terms of if you were to go forward after that and have Sharon do it for you, we have 3 different levels. One level is the silver level. You can think of that as kind of the budget level. And Sharon does all the heavy lifting and hard work for you except for the editing. And you wind up doing the editing on your own or outsourcing it inexpensively to save money, with some guidance from a debriefing meeting after the testimonials are generated so that you're going in the right direction. And you know, that's significantly less expensive because we don't necessarily have the whole infrastructure here, and it's not necessarily a specialty skill to do that. And so it's possible to outsource that a lot less expensively, and a lot of people know how to do the editing and transcript highlighting, and they can. The hardest part is actually getting things on tape and getting, you know, the contact with the people, getting the right words on tape. But for people who want everything handled for them, you can pay about 65% more per testimonial, and all of this is charged on a per completed and accepted testimonial basis. And then you don't have to lift a finger, and you get, you know, ready-to-go product delivered to you. And then the Platinum service is approximately a 10% discount for people who want to commit to some ongoing testimonial work. So, you know, you can continue to bump conversion by building follow-up after follow-up after follow-up that plays real case studies. You can sometimes have more than one product. Sometimes you can find continual bumps of conversions when you go from 6 testimonials to 12 testimonials, 12 to 18 on a given website. I've actually found that if you go above 28 that it starts to decrease conversion, but most people are never going to get that far. But there are reasons why you might want to work with her in an ongoing way. And when you do work with her in an ongoing way, she also serves on a quarterly basis as a strategic consultant, giving you market insight reports that, you know, it's kind of like getting the $50,000 marketing research projects for free, because in the course of interviewing so many people about your business, she will come to understand what direction you might want to go in, where the market is moving. She can use her background as a marketing research consultant to really provide leverage for your business you can't get anywhere else, in my opinion. So what I want to say is that it would be really important for you to grab the $100 consultation now, because during the introductory period, people know that I advise and I follow the practice of entering the market at a reasonably low price and then steadily rising it until you find the sweet spot when the sales really slow down and you're not maximizing your profitability and the kind of people you want in the business. So long story short is that, there's no time like the present, and you'll never be able to lock in a lower rate than right now. And you absolutely do not have to decide whether to go forward with the actual done-for-you service. You don't have to decide which package you want. It's all on the website, so you see what it is. But all you need to do is lock in your rate with a $100 strategic session, have a good half-hour talk with Sharon, and figure out what's best for you and your business going forward. And it might be from either side. It might be that you decide it's not for you to go forward, and it might be that she says, you know what, I don't know if you're going to be able to get the right number of happy customers to send me. I don't know if I can really help you in this particular category. That would be rarer. But this really is a, hey, is this a good fit or not conversation on both sides, and I just think it's the right way to do business. So go to testimonials.sell.com and lock in the rates with the $100 strategic consultation. But if you happen to go forward and you purchase 6 or more testimonials and you mention the webinar, this is not advertised on the sales page, and it's not available to anybody who does not mention the webinar during the strategic consultation. But if you're going forward with 6 or more testimonials, then Sharon will do something extra special for you, which is after the testimonials are done and she really understands your market and what your selling propositions are, and she's honed in on the emotional hot buttons, she will use that information to craft an interview of you personally, all about the origin story for your product or service. So rather than having a static about page or static autoresponders about why you're doing what you do, all of a sudden your website can totally come to life. We call it an audio infomercial, and you can use it in your about page, you can use it in your follow-ups, you can even use it, even if you never publish it, you can just listen to it and use it to generate better advertising copy for everything else that you do. So again, this is good for anybody who pays for 6 testimonials or more after ordering the $100 consultation. You do have to mention that you want the audio infomercial bonus during the consultation itself. And
some people have taken that audio infomercial and then created a PowerPoint and put it on YouTube.
You can do that too. It's a very, very valuable bonus. So there are some common questions that people ask. I'm going to leave this on the screen while we talk about it, and apologize for the silly picture of me in front of the cars. It's just I happen to like the colors. And okay, so sweetheart, can you talk a little bit about the audio quality of the testimonials? Like if you heard that audio quality of that David Oliver testimony we listened to, that wasn't perfect. Can you say, will people get studio quality? Should they expect that? What do you think?
So if you're coming for studio quality, you can get it if you fly to New Hampshire and sit in our studio. However, we're going to be calling people that are sometimes in their car. We're getting them where they are most comfortable or where they have the time. And so the sound quality is going to vary. And we believe that the authenticity of the testimonial is far more important than the sound. Obviously, you're going to be able to hear it. Will it sound the way it would sound in the studio? Most of the time, not. Sometimes, yes. Sometimes we get amazing quality, and it'll vary from person to person just because of where they are and what kind of phone service they have. So.
Got it. And so it's for the same reason that you don't want to do videos, because you don't want to restrict the number of people who qualify to give you testimonials. We're able to cover the full spectrum of benefits and emotional hot buttons that you want to document. For that same reason, you don't want to restrict it to only the absolute best audio quality. And my early tests show that sometimes a worse sounding audio actually converted better. And I think it's because people might strain to pay a little more attention. We certainly don't purposely try to make them sound worse, but I do not think that stressing about having a perfect studio quality audio is really worthwhile, unless you're going to be airing these on the radio or on television or something like that. So there's that. The other question people have is, what if I have customers all over the world? Like, what if my customers are in Europe or Australia or China? What do you think about that, honey?
Well, and Glenn, we've done that. So as long as they can speak English, because I don't speak Chinese, we can do it.
Gotcha.
And we have.
Gotcha. Good. So as long as your customers are in English and your websites are in English, then we can take care of that for you. Are there topic areas that you are no good at? Like, can you work with very masculine dominated topics like, martial arts or wrestling or, hot rods or something like that? Can you do that?
Well, do you remember that guy that, where were we? Which conference were we at where I was demonstrating this? And that martial arts guy came up and...
at the system seminar, I remember that.
Yeah.
He got up on stage with us.
Right, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. First of all, I grew up with 3 older brothers, and so I'm used to doing masculine kinds of things with them and getting them to talk. And sometimes there's value in playing dumb. I mean, like, we were talking before about the air conditioning guy. I got him to explain things to me by playing dumb. And I wasn't playing. In that case, I was. But, he was explaining to me about short circuits and how, the capacitor and the condenser. And those aren't things I normally know about. But people love to explain to you what they know. So...
And so I would say that what people might not know about you is that you were actually known for interviewing people about difficult topics. So
right.
You were actually, you were asked to do things like herpes or erectile dysfunction or things that...
Chronic constipation.
Right.
But also technical things like, computer software and hardware and cars and, generators. And I mean, I've had to talk to people about all kinds of things that, or biotechnology. And I don't know it before I go in, but I know it by the time I come out.
Well, and Sharon has a PhD in psychology also, so she's very facile with and sensitive to the different psychological reasons that interviewees may be reluctant to talk, and she'll pick up on it and smooth it over in ways I can't even explain. So there's that. Okay, so we talked about that. People wanted to know more about the difference between the silver and the gold package again. In the silver package, you do the editing. In the gold package, we do the editing. That's really in a nutshell. And the
right.
Platinum package is just a discount for your willingness to commit to ongoing work,
right.
6 months at a time. That's all that is. Okay, what else? What other questions do we have, Sharon? I think that's about it, isn't it?
Those are good.
Those are good. Okay, so I would ask everybody to head on over to testimonials.sell.com. Testimonials. Oh, how long does it take from start to finish?
Well, it's depending upon how long it takes people to get their list together, because they've got to create a list of people. We send them a template of what they should be saying to these customers, and then we have to contact them. So it doesn't take very long from the time that we get the names to get the message out to them and call them and invite them. But sometimes it takes a while to get the names collected. And then, I don't know, what would you say, Glenn? Probably about, like, from start to finish, a month?
Well, I mean, I guess the typical project you've been doing has been 5 or 6 testimonials, and I'd say it's about a month.
Right.
What
I've been doing usually is 6.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me say one more thing about the pricing. The reason that I'm emphasizing that I'd like you to lock in your price now as opposed to waiting is that during the introductory period, we are just finishing up the first set of, a dozen or so clients. And as we generate our proof and all of that comes in, we will have the support to raise the price quite a bit. And so we're starting lower on purpose so that we can kind of give you a win-win and get the best value as you're an introductory client. So I really would encourage you to go over to testimonials.sell.com and pick up the $100 consultation right away. And Sharon, is there anything I should have asked you that I did not?
That's a good question. I think you did a good job, honey.
Okay. Okay, everybody. Testimonials.sell.com.
Thanks, sweetheart.